Welcome to The Explainer. You know, for centuries, people have been talking about the end times, and usually that brings up images of fire, chaos, total destruction. But today we're diving into some source material that paints a completely different picture. A vision not of annihilation, but of a profound transformation.
Okay, so let's get right into it by looking at a huge contradiction that sits at the heart of a lot of these beliefs. On one hand, you have the promise that a divine king, like Jesus, will return to rule the earth. But then, you've also got this idea that the earth is going to be, completely destroyed. So how can both of those things possibly be true?
Well, the source material we're looking at today cuts right through that confusion with a pretty simple, logical point. They can't both be true. I mean, it just makes sense, right? If a king is going to rule a kingdom, there has to actually be a kingdom left to rule. And the source points to things you've probably heard a million times, like the Lord's Prayer, as evidence. Think about the words, "Thy kingdom come," on earth. This isn't a prayer to escape from earth. It's a call for heaven to manifest right here, to renew and transform the world we're in.
So, if it's not about the world ending in a giant fireball, what are the end times really about? Well, this perspective completely reframes the whole idea. It's not the end of the world, it's the end of an age, and the beginning of a brand new one.
To really get this, the source introduces a concept from Hindu cosmology you might have heard of, the Kali Yuga. This is described as the age we're in right now, an age of darkness, an era that's defined by confusion, corruption, and spiritual ignorance. Sound familiar? The end times, then, are seen as this incredible cosmic shift out of that darkness and into the Satya Yuga, the age of truth. This is an era of enlightenment, peace, and a direct connection to the divine. It's the dawn after a very, very long night. This slide just lays it out perfectly. The whole idea is to stop thinking in the terms on the left, annihilation and destruction, and start thinking in the terms on the right. We're talking about transformation, renewal, the dawn of a new era. It's a huge shift in perspective from fear to hope. Okay, now this is where things get really fascinating. Let's look at how this idea starts to weave together prophecies from some of the world's biggest religions. This is where it all starts to click. So you see these different traditions, all waiting for a major figure, right? The Messiah in Judaism, the Second Coming in Christianity, the Kalki avatar in Hinduism. Now get this. The argument being made here is that these aren't three separate events or three different beings. They are all pointing to the exact same thing, one single divine incarnation. To back this idea up, the source points to scripture, like this verse from the Bhagavad Gita. It lays out this cosmic principle of divine intervention. Basically, whenever things get really bad on earth, when darkness is winning, the Supreme Being steps in directly to restore balance and truth. And this leads to a really bold and crucial point, the claim that Yahweh, the god of the Abrahamic traditions, and Vishnu, the preserver god in Hinduism, aren't different gods at all. They're just different names from different cultures for the one and same Supreme Being. Now, if you follow that logic, that all of these prophecies are pointing to one event, it has some pretty huge, even radical, implications for the world's religions as we know them. The source uses this really powerful metaphor of a bridge. In the age of darkness, humanity is separated from God, right? So religions were created to act as these bridges to help us cross that spiritual gap. But what happens when God arrives directly on earth in the age of truth? You've reached your destination. The bridge has served its purpose. You don't need it anymore. So what replaces those bridges? The source talks about something called Sanatana Dharma, the eternal way. And it's really important to get this. It's not talking about Hinduism as we think of it today. It's describing a universal, divine science, the fundamental laws of cosmic order that will guide everyone in the new age of truth. So the end of these religions isn't something to be afraid of. It's not a violent thing. It's more like a graduation. Humanity is meant to transcend these separate, temporary paths and move on to a direct experience of universal truth. This brings us to the most practical, most personal part of this whole idea. If a new age is really dawning, how on earth would any of us even recognize it? It's not as simple as you might think. The source brings up this really powerful historical warning. When Jesus was here performing miracles, who were his biggest critics? The religious authorities of his day. The very people who should have known better. They actually accused him of working for the devil. It just goes to show you that divine action isn't always recognized, especially by those who are stuck in old ways of thinking. So the ability to tell the difference,
To discern becomes the most important skill you can have. And the source suggests a pretty straightforward test. Divine light always brings goodness, compassion, clarity, and freedom. Spiritual darkness, on the other hand, always operates through deception, coercion, confusion, and fear. The call is to look past the labels and see things for what they truly are.
All right, so let's just quickly recap the main ideas from this source material. First, the end times are a good thing, a transformation into an age of light. Second, major prophecies all point to a single, unified divine event. Third, the religions of this past age are like bridges we're meant to cross and then move beyond. And finally, a universal divine science will be the guide for this new era.
And that brings us to the final and most provocative thought. The source doesn't just present this as some far-off theory. It claims this new dawn has already begun. And so, it leaves us with the most important question of all. If the sun of a new age is truly rising, will we have the clarity to recognize its light?